Wilson Sossion is former Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, and he joins us this morning. Karibu sana.
Asante.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
It's been a while.
Yes, indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're glad to have you here all the same. We're going to be looking at the battle for the NG-CDF. Of course, we see that flying between members of parliament. People have been saying certain things about, to be with members of parliament or not. We'll go into that in just a bit. But we're going to welcome you to the Situation Room this morning with today's proverb. Dennis will tell you which country it's from, and then we would like you to interpret that for us. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So today we are in the country Tunisia, whose capital is Tunis. Now, it is in North Africa, bordered by Algeria, Libya, and the Mediterranean Sea, with a population of around 12 million people. And official language is Arabic. Now, one of the great things to just know, fun facts about Tunisia, is Star Wars film was actually filmed there, as well as the couscous capital. Now, Tunisia, Tunisia is known for its unique take on couscous, a staple dish made with semolina and served with vegetables and meat or fish. So next time you visit Tunisia, be sure to have yourself a piece of couscous and tell us how that tastes. But the proverb of the day: a one-eyed person among the blind is king. A one-eyed person among the blind is king.
One-eyed person among the blind is king. Yeah.
What do you make of it?
One eye is critical. If one eye can see, it will and see everything on behalf of the rest. And on behalf of the blind, then that eye reigns supreme. It will see what the others cannot see. So an eye is very important. It will do a lot. It will see a lot on behalf of those who cannot see.
Indeed.
Yeah.
There it is. Even if you have one, it will do something for you.
It will do something. A great thing. Yeah.
Indeed. Okay, so Sossion, many things have been said over the last few days. There are those who've, and actually the last few weeks, when we saw that CDF as an entity was declared unconstitutional, and then we needed to do something else with it. We named it something else, and we named it now NG-CDF, right? And they said, okay, let's name it something else, and perhaps that will then renew or rebirth its constitutionality. And then it was then given, before that, we saw that members of parliament essentially would control the spend. But we've come to know over time that a committee now sits on the NG-CDF in each constituency, and they are the ones who decide, with the purview or advice of a member of parliament, how this money will be spent. Many have said it has been used as a political tool by members of parliament to then be able to do the things that they want to do in their constituencies. The recent argument has been that members of parliament should have no business operating, deciding, ruling over how money is spent. Their job is to legislate and oversight, and it should end there. I'd like to get your insights in the very beginning about what you feel about this fund, which is 100 million shillings every year. What or who should actually handle it?
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think this is a critical topic for the country, and we are discussing it at the right time, when CDF itself is under attack. It is under attack by those who feel that all devolved funds should be channeled through county governments. And that is a bone of contention. But I have a completely different opinion based on the experience of CDF and based on what happens in other jurisdictions. It is good I declare that I was a member of National Committee of CDF, the second committee after its inception. And therefore, I associate myself with the evolution of CDF and the work that it has done for 22 good years. The Honorable Karue MP for Okello in 03 moved a motion to establish the CDF. And this was on the basis that the Harambe burden in our communities was was actually a burden to the people of Kenya. And therefore, we needed another stream of revenue to substitute the Harambees. And a stream of revenue that is ring-fenced from the taxes. And it was Christian Constituency Development Fund. And traditionally, over the years, matters to do with development at the constituency is spearheaded and is led by the Member of Parliament. That is a traditional fact. And if you check now, things to do with Harambees in churches and projects and whatnot, the lead person is a Member of Parliament. And when that act was passed and the funding stream through CDF, we have seen CDF evolve as a very effective development program in the country. And in education, for example, there are no more Harambees for schools. It has completely ceased across the country. And the edifices of great quality infrastructure in our schools. Check across. You do those check facts, you'll be able to get it. And about 90% of the CDF money is targeting schools infrastructure. And when you compare the significant impact of CDF compared with the devolved funds through counties has been here with us for 12 years. CDF has been here with us for 22 years. But the impact of CDF is greater, is felt in the communities. Maybe the politics of it, that it is controlled by the MPs, I don't think that is the right argument and is a good excuse to get rid of CDF the way it has been ruled in court. That ruling in court is not law, it's not a death sentence on CDF. And it is something that can be amended by Parliament. Parliament has power to realign our constitution and the laws so that CDF can be protected. Because by the end of the day, CDF is one of the best devolved funds that goes direct to projects and programs in the communities direct from national government. I remember in 2007, as NG-CDF, we visited Malaysia to benchmark and see how devolution works. And we found out that about 4% of the national budget of Malaysia, part of it is devolved directly to projects within communities, to constituencies. So it's not something that was coined and created in Kenya. It's a devolved funding that has worked over the years. Maybe what we need to do, instead of castigating CDF, and I'm happy there is a constitutional amendment bill in Parliament, and we've seen the public participation across the country, which is more or less like a referendum. And the public are testifying that we are seeing more work of CDF
even
than
asking
any
for
other
an increase
funding.
in funds,
than any other funding. So I think, to me, in all fairness, we need to strengthen the legislations and operation of activities around CDF. We have seen in Kiharu constituency, for example, what the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro has done to upgrade the primary schools infrastructure, to put the cap roads, improve the environment, the learning environment, and build the day secondary schools, and even pay fees for all the scholars, to the extent that a parent in day secondary school can only pay 1,000 shillings. So CDF is a great funding model that needs to be strengthened. And it is not going to be possible to completely remove the oversight role and the leadership role of the members of parliament around CDF projects.
Why do you think,
it is not because...
Just hold on, just ask the question. Why do you think that there have been the calls to ask that it be removed from members of parliament in terms of control? Do you think there's something that may have happened? Has there been some pattern of behavior that somebody has said, actually, you know what, this thing ought to be removed? Why?
I was a member of the audit committee of CDF. And when CDF started, you could see in documents projects that are completed and paid for. But when you move to the ground, those projects never existed.
Okay.
And that is why we strengthened CDF by taking it completely. It is actually a fund from the National Treasury, superintended by a constituency fund manager who is employed by the National Treasury. And the role of the Member of Parliament has been leadership around the project circle and in ensuring that the programs are implemented and done. Now, the argument here, the new academic argument, I call it academic because it's not practical. And it's right. Kenya is a debating country. We are free to debate and make proposals. It is with respect to more funding to counties. County government feel anything called development money should go through them. They want to do roads also. They want to do all the roads. They want all the functions, all the operational functions to be domiciled in the offices. And when you look at what is happening in the county offices and county governors or county programs, is that most of the money goes into recurrent. We see little in terms of development. So I don't think targeting CDF to claw CDF out of its current setting to take it to complement the funding of the counties is the right thing to do. What governors should do, and those who believe in devolution and support of counties should do, is to campaign for more funding to the counties. But we should be able to leave CDF to operate as it is. And like it or not, a member of parliament is elected by the people of that constituency. It's not appointed. He's elected by the people. So a member of parliament derives authority from the people, the people who elected them. And one of the key functions, stimulant of development, that the member of parliament will oversee in terms of leadership, but not controlling, in terms of leadership. Influencing is the right thing to do. Like if you see what Ndindi Njoro is doing in Kiharu constituency, and that has been copied by many members of parliament in terms of upgrading the quality of infrastructure in education and security, and in that particular manner, is doing with the people, and it's within the process of the project circle, within the project circle identification, because the projects are identified by the communities through the leadership. There is fundamentally nothing absolutely wrong with
I just have two questions.
Yes.
What makes an MP special to this fund? Can't anyone else do it? Number two, have MPs finished what they're supposed to do in parliament so that they have time to go manage CDF? Have they finished oversight? Have they sorted out the bills that are pending?
I think you represent those who don't understand.
I represent the people who are asking
those
questions.
who don't understand. And
Yes.
you represent those who are pessimists. I want you to be an optimist, and you will be an optimist in this manner. Number one, what is the role of a member of parliament? Legislation, oversight, representation.
Okay.
When you look at representation, the context is wide. It includes even community leadership, it includes community issues, it includes community development. That is part of representation. That is one. Two, it includes oversight. If indeed we want to establish, say, for example, quality classrooms across that constituency, the first top person who will have responsibility over overseeing is a member of parliament, and that is a person the constituents will hold to account. You don't elect somebody and push somebody to Nairobi.
I'm just asking the MCA, right? The MCA, for example.
No. The MCA is elected to the county assembly.
Yes.
And within the framework of the county assembly, the MCA will be dealing with programs related to devolution and to the county government. That's a fact for sure. And the unit of representation is the ward level.
Yes.
So I don't think it is right here to try and twist the interpretation and to try and uproot the moral community role. At the end of the day, the member of parliament is a leader. Leader. And the context of leadership goes beyond representation, legislation, and oversight.
If it did, why wouldn't that be brought out very clearly?
I'm saying
I'll
it goes beyond representation and representation, oversight, and legislation. But then, when you look at it in terms of context of oversight, I think we've got to make the law very clear so that the involvement of the member of parliament is more or less supervisory and oversight. You're saying
you're saying that this role goes, its leadership role goes beyond these three areas that have been provided for in the Constitution.
Yes.
This is not something in thin air. It is documented in the supreme law of the land.
Correct.
These are the three things that you should do. But you're saying, and I don't know if it's just conjecture, but you're saying that it goes beyond that scope. If it actually did go beyond the scope, would it not have been put out in the same supreme law that charts the course in these three areas?
And it is the very same decision that was made by the courts in terms of violation of separation of powers, where the court said this. The court found that members of parliament were performing executive functions by managing development projects, which contravenes the constitutional principle that separates legislative and executive roles. It is clear the role of a member of parliament.
You can read, we can be very academic, and the courts also are open for anybody.
That's the law, Mr. Sossion. That's the law of the country.
And
everyone is bound to respect the law, including members of parliament.
We'll come to that. Nobody is violating the law. We are engaging in a debate in the best way you understand. That is how you understand. But this is how it works. And this is not a new program. This program existed even before the legislation of the Constitution, and it does not contradict the Constitution. It is how we interpret, and it's how some Kenyans are trying to interpret, and in as much as that ruling has been given by the court, it's contestable. And that is why, if you look at what Parliament have done, is to avoid and to make it clean on the very absolute, is to put it in the Constitution. And that process is ongoing. It was an oversight that was not done from the very beginning. We are not going to do away with the NG-CDF. We are not going to do away with NGAF. We are not going to do away with the Women Enterprise. All these funds that were meant to assist in poverty reduction strategy, we are not going to vacate because some academicians are trying to interpret that a member of parliament is limited to 3 roles. And if you look at those 3 roles, it is still wide. It will still cover this.
I actually agree with
sense of interpretation.
I actually agree with you, Sossion. I agree
I've been a member of parliament. I've been a member of parliament. Yes. And if we are to take a whole day discussing what oversight means,
what does it mean?
Even in relation to CDF, for example, you will agree that what members of parliament are currently doing is perfect. The members of parliament are not signatories.
And I think
they're not signatories to their account. And I would like all of you here to understand.
Just a minute.
The
I think we should get to the root of the matter.
Under the management of a constituency development fund manager.
I think we should get to the root of the matter here. That you say perfect, but if we saw that around the 290 constituencies that make Kenya on the constituency level, if they were all following the same mode and operation, like the example that you give of Kiharu constituency, I don't think anybody would have any problem. But the problem here is that they are not. That in the majority, the Constituency Development Fund has been used as a tool to wield political power. We cannot run away from that reality. That when we see it's time for bursaries to happen, the Member of Parliament is almighty. That we see that people are jostling for this 100 million shillings a year. We can be real about that and say that these issues are what have brought to the fore this problem. I don't necessarily agree that the county bosses should be the ones to handle these funds either, because we can see very clearly that in the politic that there is a jostle for these funds, and that is why we are seeing the problems that we are seeing. Why don't we have accountability when it comes to this 100 million that's spent every year across board? Every single of the 290 constituencies around Kenya are not operating like Kiharu.
You should be now asking hard questions.
That's the question I'm asking, and I'm asking why.
I've given you the evolution of CDF. when I was in the audit committee and we audited projects in constituencies, we noted that there were projects that were completed on paper but never done on the ground. And that could not have been reason enough to rethink about doing away with CDF, simply because one or two individuals are unscrupulous.
I think it's more than one or two.
Listen. And that is why at that time, Ndwati Kariuki was the chair of CDF from Murang'a, who was an old member of parliament. That is when we decided we should have fund account managers, professional, deployed by the National Treasury. That was done. And NG-CDF management infrastructure has improved over time. But that does not mean the challenges the facing CDF have gone away. They have not. Like what we are talking about. If indeed some members of parliament are weaponizing CDF for political expediency, that would be wrong.
It is.
That is not the intention. But, if indeed some. But what we see, for example, if you walk through Nairobi, for example, Nairobi constituencies, to me, because we've looked at Nairobi in terms of availability of classroom, public schools, and whatnot. It has been a big challenge over the years, but a lot of delivery of classrooms and such infrastructure is being done by CDF, and very largely compared to when CDF started, the level of abuses have gone down. And I think what we should be talking about here, let us not talk about doing away with CDF. Let's talk about how can we make CDF deliver better.
But that's the point. When we call what judges are doing academic, it's a misnomer. Because the issue is not that
I have not
CDF
said
is wrong. Let me finish.
I have not said what judges are doing is academic.
Just allow him to ask his question.
Allow me to finish. The question that Kenyans are asking is not putting away CDF. The real question is that legislators should legislate, and the role of implementing any amount of money, a classroom, a toilet, even a toothpick, should not be done by someone who is supposed to oversight the national government.
Because
now,
even
precisely the question you are asking is exactly what is happening. If you look at the architect,
just allow me. Committees that are not national government.
You have asked. You've said the legislators must legislate. That is their duty. It's one of their duties.
Yes.
They must also oversight.
Oversight who?
They must oversight all programs within the country.
Their role is to oversight the executive.
No. It's not only the executive. Of course, when you talk of CDF, it's a component of the executive. It is a fund from the National Treasury. It is a fund from the National Treasury.
The National Treasury should implement it in full.
Allow me to respond because we have limited time.
Okay.
Yeah. Legislation as a role is okay. But then there are these two other roles. Representation. When you're representing people, you must listen to their unique issues that goes beyond what is provided for in the Constitution and the law. In the Constitution and the law. And community development is one of the key roles that an elected member of parliament will have to do to participate at the constituency level. That is
Mr. Sossion,
representation.
when you talk about representation.
And oversight, the context of oversight is so wide. And when you look at how CDF is working, one, member of parliament is not a signatory to the accounts. On the absolute.
No, he or she is not actually.
He is not. There is the district accountant. Who is the district accountant? It's not an employee of National Assembly. That's an employee of the National Treasury. There is a fund account manager. Yeah, that's a fact. Some of these things you will argue for days on end. Those are facts. Now, when I say academic arguments, I'm not saying the judges have done academic arguments. Judges will make decision based on the material facts placed before them, and they will do their work.
Yes.
And then the rest of you, the citizens and institutions responsible, will have to respond to that. Parliament has responded by recommending amendment of the Constitution to entrench CDF in the Constitution.
We have to take a break, but I'm going to allow... We have to take a break, but Dennis is having a question he's going to ask you. Let him ask you that question and we'll take a break.
Mr. Sossion, when you talk about representation is a delegated responsibility given by the citizen of this republic for you to sit in parliament and do your job. And part of that is making sure that when it comes to development, that you make sure the oversight of these development projects are done as required by the standards and as per the law. When you sit here and say that member of parliament will be given 100 million shillings to implement projects, who's oversighting you at that particular point? Because that is where the separation of powers gets lost, Mr. Sossion.
And I think that is where you are now engaged in what I would call academic arguments. Yeah, because, it's good. Let's call it as it is. You have a position, I have a position.
Okay.
And the members of parliament
you cannot oversight yourself, though.
Are not oversighting themselves. They're oversighting the CDF itself within the constituency, being run by the fund account manager, funded by the national treasury, and accounts checked by the district accountant, and the project circles and the projects identified by the project committees based from locations all through to the constituencies. I think we should be able to, it's good
if we follow that.
It's good if
I would like us,
if you guys from the media were to visit a constituency, see how a project is conceived.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because we're going to take a break. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to come back and give you a couple of examples from constituencies in this country where things have not happened for years on end, and then the members of parliament who tell us that this money that they've been given, number one, is not enough. They've not been able to absorb. We have reports from Auditor General of constituencies in this country that have not absorbed that 100 million, and years on end they've not been able to explain where that money went or what it was done with. In Kenya, when we talk about glaring examples of how the CDF is spent, whether it is development of roads in constituencies, whether it is building of classrooms, making sure that primary schools have what they need, we unfortunately have glowing tributes of what has been done in the minority. That the Auditor General on several occasions have talked about how this money and these funds going to different constituencies around the country have not been absorbed. Mirroring or echoing the same thing by your own admission, Wilson, whereby you say that on paper, we see that money has been spent. Going to the ground, we don't find that those projects exist. It is this country that we continue to use the examples of a big billboard being put on a cattle dip, or a member of parliament's face being put on milk packets, or a member of parliament's face being put on a public toilet.
Yep.
It is in this country. It is not in a different country. And that would be the length and breadth of a CDF project that we see under the auspices of a member of parliament in Kenya today. I don't care if it's golden toilet seats. 100 million shillings is not what will build one toilet in a constituency in a year. My point being that, unfortunately, the examples of the under and misuse and mismanagement of CDF stories are much more than the stories of the proper development that has been that has been created by use of CDF. And that is the problem.
And then as well, the fact that CDF has been there operating in contrary to what the Constitution does not make it right. Because you talk about building classrooms. As we speak today, the government is on a multi-billion shillings project to build classrooms. That is a point where a member of parliament should get into oversight the development being done by the government to making sure that these classrooms are built up to par and funds are spent as expected. Examples like Kiharu are good, but unfortunately, it's all we talk about.
You know, let me just ask, because Du is right, Aseto is right. But if your argument is CDF is about oversight, why then should the MP not be part of the board of the roads, be part of the board of the bridges, be part of the board of every single development thing, were it not for CDF to be simply a campaign tool that needs to be held on by politicians who are mostly quiet in parliament.
I think this conversation, the way we should have framed it, is to look at the challenges facing CDF. Yeah, that is how we should approach this conversation. But when we talk of this contravenes the Constitution, it must go. I think we've corrected many programs in this country.
So what are the challenges?
By reviewing the laws, by reviewing the Constitution to align them. Let me make a number of corrections with respect to CDF. One, it doesn't do roads. CDF does not do roads. It does, I think over time, it has been streamlined so that... No,
that was not my question. My question was...
There were many questions.
If CDF...
I'm starting with her. I'll come to you. No, let us be orderly.
Because go ahead, please continue.
Yeah. I thought you answered my question.
No, I'm not answering your question. I'm starting. Okay. I'm being.
All right, go ahead.
I'm being systematic. One, roads, it doesn't do roads, and over time, CDF programming has been improved to the extent that when I talked about the completion on paper and nothing on the ground, that was audit that we did in 07. I don't think it is the same case up to now, because in 07 we didn't have fund account managers. Yes. But now we have fund account managers. There is a strong hand of the district accountant. And of course, those days we could have a constituency trying to do up to 200 projects, which was not possible. It would not be completed in one financial year. And it was reduced to 25, maximum of 25. And then project identification circle was taken to the community. And I want to say the CDF project programming, implementation by the project implementation committee, and completion is done by the people. It is people driven. They are the ones who vote for the project. They are the ones who agree on what project to be done.
I need to hold you to just for clarification.
They're the ones who are expected to implement.
I need you to clarify.
And that is why there is a
Mr.
constituency.
Sossion, I'm going to have to ask you to hold on so that I can ask you this question for you to clarify. Are you telling me that within constituencies, we know that we have an NG-CDF advisory committee at every constituency?
Correct.
Are you telling me that when they want to embark on a project, that there is public participation organized by the committee?
Correct.
And everybody comes in and they agree that we are going to build this school? That's what happens across constituencies.
That is what is there in the law.
I needed your... No.
Yeah.
I know it is in the law. I am asking whether it happens at constituency level every time a project is being embarked on.
Now, having been
it's a yes or no.
Having been a member of the CDF myself, both, and over time, and having been a member of parliament,
does it happen?
I have maintained constant interest in what goes on in CDF.
Does it happen?
And I can say, no, don't. When you say it doesn't happen,
I'm asking,
where does it happen?
You've said, I've asked the question. I need you to tell me.
Now allow me to speak.
If the committee that sits, because we know that after things changed, it was not just at the will of the member of parliament to decide how funds were spent. That is why a committee was instituted, of which the member of parliament is a member. You stated that there is public participation and everybody comes together when they decide. My question is simple. When there is a project at constituency level that is being embarked on, is there public participation and the people of the constituency come together under the auspices of the committee to agree that funds should be spent for that project? That's my question.
Let me answer you. Mm-hmm. There is a constituency fund management committee with a chair and with members drawn from different groups, cadres of from the community, either civil societies, churches, and the rest. And the project is identified by the people. It is not identified by the member of parliament. No. The member of parliament doesn't come in anywhere. That's a fact for sure. And that is the practice across all constituencies. And
so it happens, to your knowledge.
It
the
happens.
people in the constituency identify and they come together with the committee. All right.
It does happen.
That's
it does happen.
Okay.
And that is how a project cannot be adopted and approved by the National Management Committee of CDF unless there are minutes to that effect, to the approval by the committee at the grassroots level. It doesn't happen, and it cannot be funded, and no funds can be released.
So they go by the minutes.
By the way,
so they go by the minutes.
It is criminal for any person to abuse the procedures and processes of implementation of programs within the CDF.
So they go by the minutes.
Anybody abusing is culpable.
That is understood.
And,
so do they go by the minutes?
Yes,
or they go by
the minutes.
Do they go by the minutes?
Let me ask you. I'm a teacher.
No.
I'm
it's
a teacher.
okay,
Yes,
Mr.
they go by the minutes.
It's a simple question. Do they go by the minutes do they go by the actual events that took place?
Let me tell you, CDF programs, projects that have been delivered in the country are great and mammoth. And I've been in the space of education.
Yeah.
And since 2003, we have seen Harambe's for schools fizzle out completely. And CDF is delivering classrooms, infrastructure, and many programs, many projects within the education sector. And if that was not happening, we would be having a problem.
Okay, tell us the challenges.
The reality is there is significant success in work that CDF is doing.
Okay.
And all these programs are identified by the community. They are identified by the committee. There is a chair and there is a fund account manager. There is a district accountant. The member of parliament simply comes in to provide leadership role and oversight.
Okay.
That is a fact for sure. The way it is, yes, the problem that you have now is the political pit.
Yeah. It's jostling.
Yes. The political advantage that a sitting member of parliament can benefit from. You can benefit by virtue of being elected by the people. That's
How
a fact
can
for
you
sure.
benefit from
But you are
this?
an MP for the time being. If you benefit politically, that is it. Why are you bitter when somebody benefits politically because of working with the people?
So
I
you
think
do
there's
agree
more
then the fund is
politics
used
here.
as a tool?
There are more politics. So the problem with you is the bitterness of politics.
So do you?
If we are bitter about politics, then let us deal with it.
I think this is coming out now. It's very important.
But I think,
do you think,
yes,
Sossion, that NG-CDF is being used in many cases as a political tool based on what you've just said?
I don't
so
think
where would the jostling and bitterness come about? So where would the jostling?
The moment you are a member of parliament, you are a leader.
So where would the jostling and bitterness that you speak of come from?
The jostling and bitterness, it comes from the society. The society will think differently, like the way you are thinking now. My brother here is so passionate that it is unconstitutional. You cannot stand table that it is unconstitutional, but it is legal. There is an NG-CDF Act.
Okay, let's keep it orderly. Let's keep it orderly so that we can ask questions and get some answers from them. Mark, please go ahead.
You just said that the MP is there to give leadership and oversight.
Of course.
You do realize that is exactly the problem.
It is not the problem.
You cannot lead and oversight
The problem is in interpretation. No, the MP is not oversighting himself. He's oversighting a committee that is working. There is a chair of CDF who is not a member of parliament. There is a fund account manager who is not a member of parliament. There is a project implementation committee who is not a member of parliament. There is a contractor on side who is not a member of parliament.
Is part of that leadership team?
No, it's not part of the leadership.
So
is not part of the component of the membership of the CDF committee at the constituency. And the membership of the CDF committees are approved by parliament.
I did not ask about committees. I asked, in the CDF structure, does the MP give a leadership role?
At the constituency.
At the constituency.
So, by virtue of being an elected member of parliament and by virtue of the CDF being originated from National Assembly, morally speaking, and sits on the lifeline of the National Assembly, that the member of parliament becomes a leader, an automatic leader of all the programs.
Thank you for making my point for me.
Yes.
You are saying that the MP is a leader who looks himself in the mirror and oversights himself. And that's where the problem is.
No, that's your own thinking.
Well,
we can argue academically the way we are doing. We can argue in different direction, and we are free as a country to debate, to argue, and the Parliament is also at liberty to respond and to align its legislation. It aligned the legislation previously. It is now an NG-CDF. These are funds controlled by the Treasury. It is not controlled by the National Assembly. It is oversighted by members of Parliament at constituency level. And the members of Parliament provide leadership in terms of project implementation, completion, and at the constituency level. Because if you are a member of Parliament and you don't pay attention to implementation of programs related to CDF and completion and delivery, the constituents will suffer. That is one of the moral duty. A duty that cannot even be written in the Constitution or anywhere, which a member of Parliament shall perform and will continue performing, like it or not. It will remain in that particular space. For me,
do you think
what
that
we need to do with
NG-CDF is used for political mileage? A very simple question.
Yes.
Do you think in any way, shape or form that NG-CDF is used as a tool of political mileage?
In 2025, I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. Okay. I don't think so. Okay. I don't think so. Considering the way these programs have been delivered, the way constituencies are doing, because I was seeing even, for example, what you call material constituency. In all day schools, parents can only pay 1,000 shillings because all the fees for day scholars is paid for by NG-CDF. In fact, NG-CDF is assisting households to offload the cost of education. I was seeing Kilgore's constituent, not Kilgore's, but Murwa Digir, where many schools were receiving buses, including the MTC and many institutions. Something that could not happen in the past. If you look at the school transport system, the CDF is doing it. It's delivering buses to school. It's doing a lot of great work. I was looking at Konoin constituency, for example, the refurbishing and delivery of classrooms. When you look at Nairobi, look at Embakasi West, Embakasi East constituency, establishment of new complete day secondary schools through NG-CDF. Look at Dagoret, and we can go on and on. To me, CDF has done well. What we need to do going forward is, one, strengthen CDF, put it in the constitution. That is one. Two, put in more money to CDF and be very specific. It goes to which programs?
You want more money where we can't see the proper absorption of the
more money to CDF. More money to CDF. So that one, we can offload the total burden of establishment of infrastructure in schools, because we will still be doing infrastructure in our education. And in fact, our education relies Our education relies completely on CDF. Number three, way forward. Allow me. Number three,
to differ with that.
Number three, you can differ, but it's right to differ.
Because education is a national
you can have your say.
Role.
How do we say that education
is a national government role that should not depend on NG-CDF?
NG-CDF is national.
Because
NG-CDF is national.
Every budgeting process,
by the way,
every budgeting process, the government plans for education, including infrastructure development.
CDF has been running education for the last 22 years. We cannot wake up in 2025 simply because we are theorizing constitution. You know, there is what we call theory and practice.
Okay.
You can do theory here, but translate it to action on the ground, it won't work. It's a mismatch. So,
doing good things.
Number three,
finish number three.
Allow
quickly.
Me.
Finish
you
number
brought
three.
me to talk.
It's okay.
You can't be the one talking.
Finish
Ask me a question. Allow me to talk.
Finish number
I think
three.
that talking is key. Number three, if there are any grave challenges within the CDF, including abuse by any committee, including non-delivery, then those who abuse the operations of CDF must be criminalized and put in. That's a fact. We need strong accountability structures, and we should be able to see what CDF delivers in literally every constituency. So let's deal with the challenges around CDF. But you see, bringing politics and trying to rubbish it and throwing it out of the window as if it has done nothing, we will be doing a disservice to the country.
You know,
the best for the country, the best thing that have been achieved in the country should be protected. And I think one of them is CDF And I'm saying so with all due honesty, not because I've been a
Mark,
member
go,
of parliament,
please.
but I've seen what it has done in education.
Pablo Escobar did great things for his village, built roads, did schools, all of those things. The result of a thing does not mean its source is right. The thing here is that MPs in this country are taking on executive power when they should not, including the issue of the roads for counties.
And that is one of the issues that was raised by the courts when it comes to matters to do with CDF, because they were usurping roles that are meant for the county governments. But that notwithstanding, you've mentioned issues to do with CDF. Let me just give you Sako constituency, unacknowledged bursary fund, incomplete student records, Moyale constituency, unverified committee expenses, procurement irregularities, Sirisia constituency, unverified bursary disbursements, land purchased without ownership documents, Kapsaret constituency, and I can go on and on and on. Mr. Sossion, we are not here to say that CDF has not worked. We're here to say CDF is a political tool, a political card being wielded by members of parliament.
And I disagree with that position.
That is a way for them to get back
with
to power.
With a final question for you, Sossion, is do you think, well, I think I can guess, but do you think that then members of parliament should be left to then handle and operate NG-CDF how they've been doing it so far?
The members of parliament should remain in position of leadership of NG-CDF activities within the constituencies, within the context of oversight. Their business should be to oversight. Yeah. And this is where other arms of the executive should come in to implement CDF programs. The intention of having a fund account manager was to take it away from the politics of the constituency, because a fund account manager is a grounded economist and a trained Kenyan who should be able to run that program effectively. The beauty of CDF is that it has less of human resource. It's more of projects. So, and I think that is what needs to be enhanced. That is one. Two, what we need to do is to flag out abuse of CDF in terms of non-delivery, in terms of poor identification of projects, in terms of limitation of what it has to do. For me, I'm basically happy it has done well in education.
Fantastic.
And I think there should be more money. They put in more money and target more the delivery within education, and then standardize the output of CDF across all the constituencies.
Wilson
If
Sossion,
Kiharu can do quality work in schools in Kiharu constituency,
then
why
everybody
can Sako and all the others
do the same?
Yes.
That's the question.
And
that if it, I'm sorry, but time has come to an end, and that's the question. That if it can happen in one place, to give the glowing
across.
that it should happen across. But there have been many things that have denied that to be able to happen.
Let
Wilson
us standardize
Sossion,
and
former Secretary General of the Kenya National Union of Teachers, has been here this morning for us to discuss issues around NG-CDF. It is still sticky, it's still wily. There'll be many, many more conversations around it. Accountability, transparency, and proper management is top of the agenda of anything in this country. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. Really appreciate your presence.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.